Thank you for the introduction and a very good afternoon to all of you. It's an honor to be part of this panel discussion and two eminent speakers here. I'd like to introduce them to you now. Rupa Barwani, MD and CHRO for TI India. Rupa's career spans over 20 years. Her current role encompasses various facets of HR across the life cycle of associates, from talent acquisition, org development, compensation and benefits, corporate communication, DEI, and CSR. That's quite a spread. Prior to joining TIAA, Rupa was associated with First Data, where she was heading HR for the technology entity for both India and APAC region. Rupa also spent 12 years at JP Morgan, supporting various lines of business as part of the HR function. Welcome, Rupa.
Thank you.
Ajay Grover, he's the director, Ethicon Endosurgery, Ethicon Surgical Care at Johnson & Johnson. Experienced commercial leader. Ajay is an experienced commercial leader with over 16 years of demonstrated history of success in business, strategy, marketing, sales, and team building in medical devices, healthcare, personal care, and OTC. Ajay balances business and people results for sustained growth, focusing on the key ingredients that build organization capabilities: people, passion, and process, the 3 Ps. Wonderful. Welcome, Ajay.
Thank you, Kanan, and good afternoon, everyone. Hi, Rupa.
Hi, Ajay.
You know, you can also look up their detailed profile in the speaker profile page on the platform if you want to know more about them. Well, coming to the workshop, let me share my own understanding of this subject. And I want to start with my own life and how that has influenced through the process of several stages of mentoring that I've gone through, both at my work and at a very personal level. It starts with when I got married and then I was into my wife's family. My wife's dad was a great influence on me. The way he looked at women in the family, and there were a lot of women around and not many men. And especially for me, coming from a very, very patriarchal society, that was a welcome change. The respect he got from the family members, the empathy and compassion that he showed to various women in the family, and the trust that he had in his children was a huge influence in my own personal life. And that's where I realized that, you know, whatever role you play in your life, there is something that you can do about making that impact. And that's in a way, you know, around the subject of mentoring. And then when I joined PepsiCo, that is where I had a deep vertical expertise around mentoring. I got mentored by various leaders. I did mentoring to a lot of women leaders. And today, I must say that they are all taken leadership positions in their respective field. And I spent 8 years in Vietnam. And when I went to Vietnam, while there were a lot of women in the workforce, women in leadership was practically zero. At certain level and above, there were no women. And one of the mandate that PepsiCo had given me was to just turn the table around. And it took me about 5 years. And today I'm so happy that when I left PepsiCo, I had at least 25% of the leadership team that were women, right? I was also equally mentored by women leaders, and one of them really impacted me so much that it changed my life. Some of them are still in touch with me, and we follow each other's personal and professional life. I mean, what I shared with you is not something new, because you will find a number of leaders in business, in sports, in all walks of life. They have either been benefited from being mentored, or they are benefiting others in turn, right? I see this as a generative process. It's not something that happens once a while, and it kind of has a positive spiral. I must also share with you that mentoring relationships are dynamic, reciprocal, and to a large extent, very personal. Outstanding mentors are intentional about their role as a mentor. It's more than a fad. From my own personal example that I shared with you, I can say that there's a lot of work that goes into meaningful mentoring relationships. That leads to a positive personal and career outcome for both the mentor and the mentee. In the current focus around diversity, equity, and inclusion, mentoring women managers to take on leadership position is gaining a lot of importance, and many people are talking about it. This is going on ever than before. But I must share this with you. In the words of Rachel Thomas, co-founder and CEO of leanin.org, she says, not harassing women is not enough. Not harassing women is not enough. Being part of the solution means mentoring, sponsoring, and working one-on-one with women. What a great statement that is. And it's true, very true. And even in my own experience, I think what she says is very true. And it is in this context that we are discussing today the importance of finding the right mentors. So let me start by asking Ajay and Rupa, what's been your experience of having a mentor in your life? How has it influenced you both as a mentee and or as a mentor? Can I start with Rupa, please?
Sure. Thank you so much, Kanan. I think for me, my career spanned, as you said, like more than 20 years. And I've spent my career not just in the HR fraternity, but also had stints in customer service, CNBC TV 18 at some point in production. And I have met several people from different walks of life. And during these 20 plus years, have had several mentors at different stages of my career. I think each of these mentoring relationships have been unique. I've benefited immensely from a networking perspective, honing my leadership skills, and just broadening the way I think, moving away from the traditional to thinking a little more broader. And having a mentor encouraged me to take calculated risks, right? And not be scared to make certain decisions or do things differently. So I think I've largely benefited from mentoring relationships over the last 20 years. However, I've also been in a situation wherein I think, at some point in my career, very, very early on, I was sent across an invite to be part of a pilot mentoring program. There was a lot of jazz around it. It was a corporate program, like most of us have gone through at some point in our career. I jumped onto this mentoring bandwagon because some of my peers were part of the program, and it was supposed to be this very prestigious program to be part of. I had absolutely no clarity in terms of why I was looking for a mentor, what were the objectives of the program. And I have to be very, very candid, I absolutely did no homework around the same. And I went on to this online portal like an absolute novice, and picked up on some mentor that I thought had a great pedigree, great background. Mm-hmm. And I said, this is the person that I would like me to be mentored by. And I can absolutely say, looking back in hindsight, that equation really didn't work for the mentor and myself. Because I had absolutely no clarity in terms of what I was looking for in a mentoring relationship. And we had a few conversations which went in circles. And at the end of the day, we called it quits because we realized that we were really not achieving anything. So I would say mentoring has largely benefited me, but I think one needs to have clarity in terms of what's in it for you and how you will benefit from the mentoring relationship, and what's in it also for the mentor.
Right.
I think that's been my experience, really, Kanan.
Right. Thank you. Wonderful. Wonderful. I can relate to what you said. One thing that I've also learned during my experiences, mentorship cannot be forced. When someone finds the right mentor, it becomes very obvious. And that is where it clicks. Right. Thank you so much for that introduction, Rupa. Ajay, what's been your experience?
I think my experiences are very similar. When I was hearing Rupa and when I was hearing you, Kanan, I also had the opportunity fortune of spending a couple of years in Indonesia. And in Southeast Asia, I also realized that diversity is quite high in terms of women's representation in workforce. So I think coming on the mentorship, I would think I have always looked at mentors as trusted advisors. And when I were to reflect on the best mentors that I have had, and I were to think about what worked for me, I think it's or what I would think has been the best mentorship experiences. I think number one is they took interest in my development. So as Rupa was pointing out, it was very deliberate, it was very intentful. They gave me appropriate visibility, provided opportunities to grow my network and gain more sponsors, so it multiplied. They shared their knowledge and life experiences so that I could reflect and learn from them. I think one of the things that Rupa was talking about was taking risks. I also experienced that. So they told me that I have immense potential and that I could do anything. They encouraged me to take risks. And that, I think that experience also facilitated my own thinking process. And they would regularly ask me on what I wanted to do and what would keep me happy. And they listened when I spoke. And that, I think, also make you continue to nurture that relationship because you feel in that relationship you have an equally valid point of view. So when I think about as a mentor myself, and it's also been, I've been fortunate to have that position where people reach out formally and informally. So I think these experiences have given me opportunities to clarify my own thoughts, to build my own knowledge. There are now reverse mentoring initiatives that we run at J&J, and there are areas where you can take this opportunity to learn a lot from people who are reaching out to learn from you. So it's a mutual exercise, as you had also pointed out. And I would think last thing that I feel when I'm in a position of a mentor, I feel it gives me a sense of fulfillment and growth myself. So it's very rewarding that way as a relationship. So that's been my experience with with mentors and being a mentor myself.
That's right. That's right. After having gone through that experience of being a mentee and being mentored by somebody else, and when you grow up the ladder, you feel that, you know, there is something that I need to give back to from where I have come. And you know, the strongest relationship will come when both the mentor and the mentee feel that it's earned, and both of them feel it that way. You know, I'm remembered of I'm remembered of a quote of Oprah Winfrey. You know, she's taught a lot of things to the entire generation. She says, I mentor when I see something and say, I want to see that grow. That connect happens, right? So that's what you know, I like that quote, what she says about, I want to see that grow. And when you feel that way, that's when that, you know, that feeling of having to add value or adding value to the other person happens.
And you know, I absolutely, sorry, go ahead, Ajay.
Go ahead.
No, actually, I absolutely agree with the quote, right? Because I think when an individual is looking for a mentor and looking for certain qualities in a leader in terms of what they're looking for in a mentor, one also has to be mindful that a mentor is also looking for qualities in a mentee. True. You know, whether there is potential to coach, growth, are they excited? Do they feel the magic? Do they feel that this individual is going to be somebody that who will be open to feedback and working through new ways of working? So I think when one is looking for a mentor, one also needs to understand that it's a two-way process. The mentor is also looking for certain qualities in a mentee. Great. And completely echo with Oprah's quote in terms of one needs to feel excited, you know, in terms of I want to see this person grow and I want to be part of this person's journey. So thank you so much for sharing that.
Oh, thanks, Rupa. And as we go along this conversation, we'll have more opportunity to talk about some of the nuances around this particular subject. So that actually segues into my next question, right? How do women, and especially I'm talking about women because that's the focus of our discussion and the subject that we're talking about, while it might apply to both genders, it is gender agnostic, but we are having a little bit focus on women right now. So how do women find the right mentors in their career journey? And what are your thoughts? Both, Rupa, you can start with you and then and Ajay can join in.
Sure. Ajay, you want to go first since I took the first question first?
No, I can share my thoughts. So I would think staying in the driver's seat and being proactive about a relationship with your mentor, I think is key to success. Uh, Actually, we make a lot of assumptions when to begin with. We believe approaching somebody, they must be busy. Am I too old? Who cares about me, etc. There's a lot of assumptions that we carry. And when I'm saying that, I think I'm primarily referring to informal approaches to mentorship. And therefore, I believe, I think formal programs matter, especially when you know that there are a lot of assumptions at play. And there is enough and tons of research which is available on what's on people's mind, and especially women uh, in terms of their hesitancy to approach informal networks.
Yeah.
And I would think it flows both ways. So, and therefore, there's an importance of having formal programs. Employees don't always have equal access to mentors. For example, in some organizations, even men in leadership positions may be reticent to mentor younger women for
Yeah.
fear of would that relationship be seen as improper, or informal networks could be driven by shared networks, which is this is a person from my business school or my same educational background, and let me therefore mentor this person. And therefore, I believe, I think there's definitive need of formal programs, especially to further diversity, equity, and inclusion agenda. But I think beyond the formal programs, I would think it's important to take initiative, reach out, and establish a relationship. It's important to ask for that first meeting. And in my experience, I think the best way is to just reach out with a short introductory, one or two things that you admire about the person who is approaching about their work, and tell them what is it that you would want to gain out of that entire engagement. Uh, be specific. Rupa had spoken about it. I also completely agree. One has to be very specific to generate best out of that relationship. The area where I believe a lot of mentorship arrangements do not work is really where the mentees do not maintain the relationship. So it's important that we take ownership of maintaining a relationship, keeping mentors updated, because that is where they also generate energy to help further. It's a two-way street, and frequently express gratitude for what one is gaining. And I think that I would think, in my view, would be a recipe to finding right mentors.
Great point. Great point. I like the point that you talked about gratitude. Humility and courage is another point that comes to my mind when you talk about mentorship. And it's actually not about the label mentor, mentee, whatever. It's more about the relationship that really matters, right? Rupa, what are your thoughts?
No, Kanan, thank you, for the question, and Ajay, great points out there. I also specifically resonated with your last point on ownership and gratitude and nurturing the relationship. As a woman leader, I think most people tend to think that if you're looking for a mentor, it has to be a woman in a leadership position. But in the last decade or so, I've seen some of the best allies of DE&I are actually men, right? Really, who are championing several causes. So I think one shouldn't get stuck by stereotypes saying that, what, just because you're a woman, you should look for a woman leader. And it's only a woman who will understand, the circumstances that you are in. Men as allies are like great champions, great sponsors. And I would say just be open in terms of the kind of mentor that you're looking for. Focus on the leadership skills. Don't focus on the gender of the mentor. Completely, agree with Ajay about formal mentoring, informal mentoring, and one must have the courage to reach out to people and have your elevator pitch ready. You have those few minutes to make impact in terms of what's in it going to be for the mentor. And, if a mentor doesn't respond, or a leader, potential mentor doesn't respond, it's absolutely okay. And one shouldn't take it personally, that somebody you reached out to didn't respond, and, you get cynical or jaded about the whole mentoring relationship or program. I think you continue to nurture the network, The person may not land up to be your mentor, but may land up to be somebody in your network. And nurture just for the interaction are like big things for me. So I would say, really to sum it up, reach out to the right person, have an authentic conversation, very, very important. Know your elevator pitch, and don't take it personally if somebody doesn't respond the same way.
You know, Rupa, when you said elevator pitch, that reminded me of an incident. There was this marketing manager in Vietnam, the business, and she was kind of not really in the radar of the senior management. And that was a time when we had a very big visitor coming from the US. And it so happened that we were in the same lift. I was there. This women manager, marketing manager was in the lift with this very senior resource from the global team of PepsiCo. And she made he asked her, what are you doing? What's his role? What are you doing in Vietnam? So she just spent 2 minutes talking to him. Then he said, I need to have another conversation with you. Can we have a cup of coffee later today evening? Kanan, can you talk to my secretary and see if there is some time available? And that went on. Before he left Vietnam, he had multiple conversations with her. And then that turned into a mentorship relationship. You know, you don't know. We have to keep our eyes and ears open. Even an elevator pitch, even a conversation in an elevator can turn out to be very, very meaningful.
Sure.
Yeah, and the other great example I always give is about how Indra Nooyi was mentored. And I've read her book, Life in Full, and autobiography. And there she talks about, she wasn't even ready to take on that role of a CEO, but it was because of Peter Thompson and Roger Enrico, who had that faith in her that, you know, they believe that she can make that happen, and rest is history. So these are some of the things that I think, both from a mentee point of view, women leaders point of view, we need to keep some of these aspects in our mind, that keep it open, like you said, right? Be transparent. And yeah, definitely, I think companies are also moving from a more informal mentoring to where only the individual takes the initiative, right? To more about formal programs, right? The question that I want to ask both of you is, when it comes to a formal program, many times I've seen women leaders take a back seat. They don't step forward, right? And how can mentees make best use of these opportunities in a formal environment? What are those 3 or 4 pointers that you would like to share in terms of how they can make use of this formal structure to build an opportunity to progress in their career?
Ajay, you want me to take the question first?
Sure.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Thank you so much. So, you know, as a mentee, you know, how do I leverage the best on a, female leader? I would look at it is, in a professional environment. Is there, for the merit and the value she brings to the organization, and obviously the multiple roles that she plays in her life. But the equation has to start on a premise of professional support, in my opinion, and not necessarily personal support. And as the relationship evolves and it nurtures and it grows, the professional partnership or the professional mentoring can lead to a mentoring at a personal level. But that comes with time. A lot of times as a woman, I may just expect another woman to just understand what I'm going through personally. And I don't think it really happens that way. I think as one professional to another, the relationship should start on a premise of professional objectives. And as the trust builds in, you can weave in the personal element. And that would be my advice to people, and especially when you're looking out at women leaders to mentor you. Happy to hear your thoughts, Ajay.
Sure. I think I completely echo with your thoughts. And I just wanted to just reflect on the fact on why are companies moving from informal to formal programs now. I would think that just gives some clues about how do you get then the best out of these mentorship programs. Uh, at times, I have seen companies build these mentorship initiatives to onboard new employees. At times, I have seen some of these programs structured around facilitating employee leadership development opportunities. And at times, as Karan was talking about, it could also be mentorship to foster succession planning. So there are two, three different broad areas in which I have seen mentoring programs create a lot of value. And in all of these, I think the common theme that I walk away with and my advice, therefore, is number one, to be very curious. I would think as a mentee, you have to be very curious, express your curiosity, not just about being curious. I think express your curiosity to learn more. Because the more you express your curiosity, the more you talk to someone, the more you will learn. And I would think to move ahead in career, the biggest building block is how well you are building your skill sets. Number two, I would think share your interest and expectation with your mentors. At times, I think I've been in experiences myself where mentees may not be very clear about what is it that they expect out of the mentors or this relationship or the session connect. I would think you need to take charge of these sessions because in the time that mentors allocate to you, you have their full attention. So how do you take full benefit? How do you chalk out a broad agenda if feasible out of that conversation is something that would be another tip that I can offer here. And finally, be open to feedback. If you are there to listen and if you're there to build on to your own knowledge, you have to be open to feedback. Otherwise, these sessions can be unproductive. And again, when it's unproductive, it's a two-way street. Maybe the last thing that I might add is that I had spoken earlier also, which is about keep in touch with your mentors to nurture this relationship. Make it periodic. And I think if you do that, that continuity of relationship, in my opinion, keeps that entire visibility part, which is also crucial from career advancement perspective. You become, we spoke about mentors need to take a deliberate interest by, and what is it that mentee can do there? And I would think this is what a mentee can do to generate deliberate interest from mentors, which is to keep in touch, to nurture this relationship. And I think with that, I believe there is a lot of value that can be unlocked. Now, whether it is really about a new onboard hire, whether it is succession planning, or whether it is overall leadership development opportunities, I think in all these three areas, some of these things could be very, very handy.
Right. Very true. Very true. And sometimes these formal programs also help in, busting the biases that can creep in when you do a very informal mentoring program, right? And if you can build a process around the mentorship program itself, that will help in keeping the biases away. That will help in more objective way of looking at the process and the outcomes of the process. And then both the mentor and mentee feel a little more comfortable. And you mentioned about how men are slowly, not wanting to do that mentorship because of various biases that they have sometimes. So all of those things, I believe, would be to some extent taken out, and those barriers will not come in the way, right? The other aspect that comes to my mind is that very often when we talk about mentorship, both men and women, it seems like, that's the gateway to my next promotion. That's the gateway to my getting into leadership role, right? In my view, I think when you do a formal program, it should also inbuild certain other elements of career development, action, and training aspects, right? And these days, I just keep telling people that career advancement is no longer a ladder. It's more like a jungle gym. And, in a ladder, there's only one way to go to the top. But there are many ways that you can get onto the top in a jungle gym. And
No, Karan, actually completely agree with you. Most people tend to think that if you're invited to be part of a mentoring program,
yeah,
it is because, you've been identified for promotion.
correct.
And, to what Ajay mentioned, there are several reasons for a mentoring program, right? I mean, whether it's succession planning, you've been identified for a new role, which could be completely transformative. It may not be a promotion, but it may be something absolutely different because the organization has tapped into your potential to do something different.
Right.
So I think one needs to move away from the traditional thought that if you're part of a mentoring program, it will result in a promotion. I think mentoring is more about, having a mentor who can help you think broadly. You're not hesitant in terms of sharing different ideas because you think, you're not in a performance conversation when you're speaking to a mentor, right? You can think differently, you can think out of the box, you can share ideas. And I think one needs to move away from the fact that mentoring will result in a promotion. Just to share some of my experiences, I think sometimes as a woman, when you're invited to a mentoring program, you start doubting yourself also. You're so hard on yourself. Sometimes you think, am I the right person for this program? Is this the right mentor? Maybe this person is too senior. Will I be able to add value to the relationship? And I would just say, what, believe in your potential. If you've been invited to a program, you belong out there. And if you want to be part of the program, get onto the program, identify your mentor. Like Ajay said, have your objectives in place, get your elevator pitch ready, but go for it. Don't be hard on yourself. If you've been invited, it means you belong out there. So, but don't expect that, once you're part of a mentoring program, like what you said, it is about transformation. It is not about, it's not about a promotion, really, in my view.
Yeah, yeah. Ajay, what are your thoughts in terms of, I gave you the analogy of the jungle gym, right? And I genuinely believe over my career that, sometimes you have to take 2 steps backward to take one step forward. Sometimes you'll have to move sideways, or to move that 1 step forward, right? And but it's not very often that mentors or the organization prepares the mentees to look at it from this point of view. So where do you see that element coming to play, and what would you advise the mentees to look at this particular aspect?
So number one, I think an acknowledgement first. It is not easy to think like that because we are all accustomed to think career in a certain fashion, which is only upwards. And therefore, my first acknowledgement is it is not going to be easy to think about sidewards, stepping back, and then thinking about how can I accelerate. It's not something which is a part of our, I would think, daily experiences, right? You move forward. And that's how I would think we are wired. So that's first an acknowledgement. But that said, I think careers, as you very rightly pointed out, are no longer about just one-way movement. You need to think about how can you generate experiences, improve your skills. And I would think in any program, really the goal has to be how do mentees improve their skills. And hopefully that is what will advance their careers. And in my opinion, I think the role of a mentorship program is really about understanding, as I said, when I reflect on my experiences, people who were mentoring me invested in clarifying with me what is it that I would want to do, what would make me happy. Because at times, what I would want to do is primarily driven by some role models, but it may not match with what would make me happy. And that could be very unique to me. So, in my mind, I think the role of a mentorship program or the mentor when they're advising mentees is really about clarifying this aspect about what are the aspirations and what brings happiness to uh, the mentee. Once, once that when that part of the equation is through, I think then it is really very important to then explore what skill gaps do we have towards aspirations, and then those skill gaps or those areas. And it may not be skill gaps; it may also be areas where you are not connected very well, and mentors can facilitate, help you make connections. They can also help you see which are the competency gaps that you might want to bridge as you take on to a new role. And your aspirations could be maybe joining a new industry. Your aspirations could be joining a new function. It could be joining, maybe just upgrading yourself in your current journey. And I would think, depending on the context that you have towards your aspiration, what will bring you happiness, mentors can help you identify areas where they can offer you visibility, and that I think is something that will improve eventually skills of mentees and advance their careers. And I think in my personal experience also, I have taken some risks. I started my career with FMCG business of Johnson and Johnson. I was
Right.
with the consumer business for almost 10 years here, maybe 3 years with Colgate earlier, so 13 years. And thereafter, I made a switch to medical devices, and it's a different business vertical. And at this juncture, I have seen the value come through to me, given that this was a very network business on the role that mentors can play in this entire transition. So I would think there is a lot that you can get out of a mentorship program, a mentorship relationship. I would think mentors can help you stay focused on your career, improve your skill, give you networks, help you improve your self confidence. So I would think approach it not as just a program to get ahead, but a lot to improve on what will get you up there.
Wonderful, wonderful. That's really and capturing the entire conversation that we had in a nutshell, so to say. And that's a very important aspect. How do these mentees take this entire program? Are they taking it as their own self-development, as a career journey in terms of the journey, or are they taking it as a push to reach a milestone? That differentiation, if they can make, I think they will be able to understand the value that this program can add to them. I mean, we are kind of coming to end of the session now. What are your final thoughts, Rupa and Ajay? Any one suggestion to mentees in terms of looking at the entire mentorship program? What would you tell them?
I think if I had one advice, it would be the driver of the relationship, and that is the mantra. Don't let it be a program driven by a community or by HR or by somebody else. Be the driver of this relationship. Take ownership. And we've spoken a lot about what you could do to be better at gaining out of these mentorship programs.
Yeah.
Sajay, from my perspective, and completely resonate with all the thoughts that you shared earlier, I would sum it up saying, I would say, look for mentoring moments. There will be so many people in your life that will come by, formally, informally, corporate programs, but on a day-on-day basis, there will be so many people in your personal and professional lives who will provide you with those mentoring moments, advice that will help you in the long run, whether it is from a career transformation perspective, your personal lives. So look for mentoring moments. And like I said earlier, don't be hesitant reaching out to a leader, have confidence in yourself. And should a mentoring relationship not work out, please don't take it personally. Sometimes some mentoring partnerships are meant for a season, and sometimes they're meant for a lifetime. And that's what I would leave you with.
Very wonderfully put. Don't hold back.
Yeah, very true. And I like what you said about the mentoring moments. And I can reflect on my own experience of, on one side, you have people who travel the journey with you and help you through the various aspects, both personal life and professional life. But there are also some moments when somebody has told you something about your posture, your executive status, or the way you the presence, executive presence, so they call, what you should be doing to get that right. These are all moments where these are all nuggets of mentoring. I think we cannot afford to miss these moments as well. And I think that's a great value add to all the participants who are here listening to this conversation. And thank you very much, Rupa and Ajay, for your wonderful insights.
Thank you, Rupa.
Thank you very much.
Thanks,
and it's been a great program and great learning for all of us. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.